we have to record.
I always jump the gun. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Audit Committee of the City of New York on Wednesday, January 26, 2022. And I'd like to call upon the Secretary to do the roll call.
Good morning, everyone. Our private members, Michael Spitzer, Chair.
Present.
Larry and Angelo.
Present.
Mark Kaplan.
Present.
Bud Larson.
Present.
Our public members, representing Mayor Eric Adams, Paul Timus.
Present.
Representing Comptroller Brad Lander, Jacqueline Thompson.
Present.
Representing Public Advocate Jamani Williams, Michael Toomey. Michael, are you on?
Katrina, I don't think he's with us anymore.
Okay.
Elizabeth was supposed to join.
Okay. Well, we have a quorum. We're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Like what you think it's anymore. You sound like he was dead.
He's gone on to a better place.
I'd like to have a motion to accept the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on December 15th, 2021.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
I guess, just for those that are not aware, the Comptroller of the City of New York would like to make some remarks, but he is not here yet. So
we have Francesco is on. We have our deputy.
Well,
The executive deputy of...
I'm no match for Brad Lander, but I can entertain you with some, jokes in Italian, but he's around. I just saw him, so it's not, he's still with us, just in case. I'd like to thank you all. This is my first meeting. I'm the executive controller, deputy controller for budget and finance and accountancy. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to see Mark and the veritable OMB legend Bud Larson, which is the first time, and of course my dear friend Marian, and I'm very much looking forward to working with you.
Excellent. Looking forward to working with you.
And I still haven't filled the time for Brad to show up. So I tried.
While we wait, can I suggest that there are several things in which the minutes need some work? So if you get it from me now, or we can do what we usually do, which is adopt them, and I'll give the comment to whoever.
You can give them to me.
yeah, like Mark and anybody else, if you have any suggestive comments, and they're usually mostly nits, please forward them to the Secretary, Katrina Stauffer, and then she'll update them, or have them updated, I should say.
All right, Katrina, I'll give you mine later then. There are some of these things are impossible. Like that the EDC manages the financial statements. I don't think we want to say that.
As we're waiting, I'd just like to say that when we start to review all the pension financial statements, David Jetta from the Comptroller's Office is here to answer any investment types of questions, as well as we have several representatives from the Actuary's Office, Tom O'Hara, Anderson Yu, and Craig Chu. So if there are any issues or questions that might come up regarding the actuary or the investments, we'll call upon them to possibly help or assist in the answers. So I guess...
Mike, the Comptroller is joining now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
1 second. Our Comptroller is here.
Good morning, sir. I'd like to introduce, for everybody that's at the meeting, I'd like to introduce the new controller for the City of New York. Brad Landa, who would like to make some remarks to the audit committee. We've also introduced your deputy assistant already, Francesco. So I'll turn it over to you, Brad.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's can you hear me okay? We're still
Yes.
getting some of our tech set up. Very good. It's really an honor to be here. I want to thank everybody who both serves on and supports the audit committee. It's fun to get to attend a little bit of my first meeting. I've really enjoyed diving in. Our wonderful deputy controller for accountancy, Jackie, gave me just like a pretty in-depth, but still I got a long way to go tutorial of really understanding the depth of what it means to produce the city's both audited consolidated financial report annually, but also the month-to-month work that so many of you guys are doing. And, you know, I had some appreciation of it already, but that really helped me understand even better, not only all the work that goes into it, but just what it means to give people confidence in the city's numbers, that we're telling the truth, that we are minding the store with like a real commitment to integrity and truth telling. You know, I think it's no secret that there's like a lot of different risks and threats to our democracy at every level at the moment. The baseline that we have to give people is we're telling the truth about how your tax dollars are being used, about what the resources are that are actually in your pension fund. And that really begins here. Like, to me, this is critical because the numbers got to pencil out. It's critical because it's important to have a clean audit. It's critical because the folks that are underwriting our bonds are paying attention. It's critical because we have to know that the money's in the bank to pay the contracts and pay the bills. So all that is essential, but it also is like the foundation for just basic trust in government. And maybe there are times in our history where you could take that for granted, but this is not actually one of those times. This is one of the times when you say the work that builds trust in government is really important. We take it seriously. People do hard work to achieve it, and we honor that work. So like, that's how I'm approaching the audit committee and this set of work, which means I'm really grateful for all the people that are participating into it. I'm glad to have Mark and Bud representing the controller's office on the audit committee in the voting capacity. I'm really thrilled with the staff team we have that I've been getting to know and meet people. And that includes both folks who have been here for years, like Jackie and her team, and the great new team of leaders that we're bringing in, and obviously having Francesco Brindisi as Executive Deputy Controller for Budget and Finance, who many of you know from his time at OMB, I think is exactly what we need. So to all of you in all the various different places, on the pension fund boards, on the audit committee, in the Bureau of Accountancy, thank you for the work. I'm excited to dig in. I can't answer questions about every page of last year's audited consolidated financial report, but I think I could do a pretty good job with the popular version. And I will say, when I asked for like what the top line is, of course, the top line interesting thing from last year is that the investment returns were unusually good. You know, if you would say what was different about this year's audit than last year's audit, what you would say is like we had really strong investment returns. And that's a thing we pay attention to. So that's a credit to all the folks who are doing that work as well. So thank you so much for all that work. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to working together with all of you. And yeah, I did want to introduce Francesco, who again, I know many of you know, but we're delighted to have him here as Executive Deputy Controller.
Thank you very much on behalf of the Audit Committee for those remarks. Francesco, I don't know if you would like to say anything.
I've already taken enough time. You have a very full agenda. So
okay.
I'm thankful for the words that Brad said about me, and I'm really looking forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you both for everything this morning. At this juncture, I would like to start to go through the agenda. And the first organization that's going to be presented to the Audit Committee is the Teachers Retirement System for the City of New York. Could you please identify who you are and like who you might have brought to the meeting as well? And I think Marla, and the auditors as well.
Good morning. Thanks, Mike. I'm Mitchell Fruchter, Assistant Chief Accountant. I'll be presenting the Teachers Retirement Assistant Fiscal Year 21 Financial Summary. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes, good morning, Mitchell.
Okay, good morning. Thanks. I represent the agency's accounting department together with Paul Ross, the Chief Accountant. I don't think he's here, but Asmi Salib, Investment Accounting Manager, Barbara Charchik, Financial Reporting and Banking Manager, and Navina Flachova, Financial Accountant are here. Also with us is Kate Chen, Internal Audit Director, and the representatives from the Controller's Bureau of Asset Management, the Office of the Controller, the Office of the Actuary, and our auditors from Grant Thornton. So not sure. I saw Sharon from GT, I'm sure. Many others from Grant Thornton here as well. I thank TRS management and staff, as well as Grant Thornton, for the dedicated work and dedicated and professional work this past year. Finally, I thank the Audit Committee for this opportunity to present a summary of Teachers Fiscal Year 21 combination financials. It's good to see everyone, whether in person or here on Zoom. So, hi. 2021 financials is the seventh year of the Teachers Combination Financials. The report combines 401A pension and the 403B tax-deferred annuity, we know it as a TDA program. As usual, as I'm going through my presentation, I'll refer to the page numbers from the standalone financials during this presentation. So on page 7, we can see that the teacher's QPP net position as of June 30th, 21 was $78.3 billion. Remarkable, as the controller pointed out, 32% increase from the previous June. Page 12 shows that the TDA net position increased 16% to $43 billion. The statement of net position is on page 19. The QPP and TDA combined net position was $121.3 billion. $121.3 billion net position also appears on page 216 of the city's annual report. Investment performance can largely be explained by investment allocation to particular market sectors and the individual sector's returns. On page 33, we see that as of June 30, 2021, pension asset target allocations were roughly 37.5% in fixed income, 28.4% in domestic equity, 20.1% in international equity, and 14% in alternative investments. A breakdown of teachers' alternative investment holdings is found in the investment footnote on page 46. Teachers' investment performance for fiscal year 21 mirrored the returns of the following indices. U.S. equity focus Russell 3000 returned a historic 44.2%. International stocks focus MSCI index returned 37.2%. Dow Jones U.S. Select Real Estate Securities Index returned 40%, while the fixed income New York City plus 5 returned a negative 0.2%. These returns are back, in the beginning at the MD&A on page 8. The required supplemental information schedule number 3 on page 61 shows that the pension fund itself as a whole returned 24.8%. In addition to that, the QPP received an additional $4.3 billion in earnings on TDA returns in excess of the required TDA return. This can be seen. There's a table on the top of page 11 which details that. In terms of expenses, just looking at the statement of net positions on page 21 and 22, we can see that the TDA fixed expense has increased to $2 billion. Basically, it's 1.998. So $2 billion of interest, while the system's benefit payments actually decreased, and the systems decreased by 0.5%. That was a one-time event. It was due to the CARES Act of 2000 suspension of RMD, typically paid in December. This past December, we had our largest RMD payment. It was almost $500 million. In terms of current year's returns, as of December 31st, 21, teachers' holdings increased another 3.7%. In contrast, even yesterday and January 22 has been negative and very volatile. In terms of funding status, teachers, as of June 30, 21, per the GASB 67 market, funding measurement was at 99.91%. The more conservative actuarial entry method against normal accrued liability and using June 30, 2019 data, teachers' funding percentage was measured at 78.4%. In other words, at present, the pension systems are currently really at the best funding in a long time. Two other points of note. The system's teachers included received an unmodified opinion. The systems did, though, receive a managerial note involving the valuation of alternative investment assets. The systems also at year-end adopted an update to its actuarial assumptions and methods. The A&M update lowered both the current net pension liability and fiscal year 22 employer contributions. A brief reference to the A&M update appears on page 50. So finally, I'll just note that the MD&A also includes a breakdown of financial activity by employer on page 6. And there are schedules regarding the QPP and TDA cash flow, which kind of helps when understanding how the TDA fixed interest works, as well as QPP and TDA percentage holdings of the total funds and the percentage of the controller managed pension fund versus the TRS managed variable funds. These are all found on page 15 to 17 of the MD&A. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you. I guess any questions?
Yes. Did you receive the certificate of achievement for 2020?
Yes.
And have you submitted your annual report to the GFOA for 2021?
Yes. We do that. We submitted it, I think, at the December 27th. If I believe, I have to check the date. Maybe might have been the 29th. But yeah, it was submitted by year end to the GFOA, and we typically get back the review in August.
Usually the spring. Okay.
Okay. I mean.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I guess. Yeah.
Are there any questions from any of the members of the committee for Mitchell?
I have one.
Mark?
I compared the COVID discussion among all of the funds, and all of them have the skinniest I've seen in terms of COVID impact on financial condition of any of the enterprises I sit on or advise. And I think that you ought to, first of all, you ought to be sure that they're all the same. And secondly, I think that you ought to revisit the question of the disclosure, because it can't be that you just say what you did when, if you go into some of the companies that actually raise money or do things, they go on for almost pages about the possible impact of COVID. And I suspect it has some impact not only on the results of operations, but on the liability side.
You're referring to the footnote on page 55?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's
all the systems are very similar. Bud, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, all of a sudden you popped up on my big screen.
I have a question.
Okay, Larry.
Okay, this is just my curiosity. I'm looking at member contributions, and it's gone up for 3. On what page? On page 9. And it's gone up. I'm just, my own curiosity, is that a function of more heads, higher salaries, change in the structure of seniority? Just curiosity.
Yeah, slightly. I think it's mentioned in the MD&A. I would have to find the page number, but and if you go into contributions, both did slightly increased salaries and in general and total count of active members.
Okay, great. And then the other question I had is probably a question I'm going to ask everybody, which is, as the controller pointed out, it's been a great year in the market, and all the plans and the city and we've all benefited from it. And we know it won't last forever, and it's already a little shaky. So, are you planning or making preparation for changing your portfolio in response to what has happened or what may happen?
I guess I'll defer to the controller's office. I mean, I'm sure the controller and whatever. Let me just defer to the controller's office.
Okay. Lawrence, this is David Jetta from the Bureau of Asset Management. And before I speak, I'm joined today by Lynn Fleischman and George Siabashi, who assist me in supporting the systems and putting together the financials. But to your question, the systems all have asset allocations that of roughly 65% equity and 35% fixed income. And those asset allocations were done in the spring of last year. So I think, we think we're well positioned to weather any change in the equity markets. If you look at our returns, we've underperformed the 44% return in equities, primarily because of that asset allocation, because we're going to underperform in good markets and we're going to overperform in bad markets. So we think we're well positioned. So there's no plan at this point to look at the asset allocations because of the projected changes in the equity markets. But we do look at those every 2 to 3 years routinely with the boards.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Larry?
I have two.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Mark.
Maybe because I couldn't find it fast. There's a reference in here to corpus expenses. What are those?
Page number?
Sorry, page 8.
It's another word for administrative expenses.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that. And then you have on the next page, you refer to passport funds. What kind of funds are they?
And so teachers' retirement system, we have the pension fund, and because, let's say primarily due to the TDA, we have other investment vehicles. We have what we call variable funds, one's in domestic equity, one's in international. We have a couple of indexes. So all these different funds that are available, the term used for our members is passport funds.
Oh, all right. It just wasn't clear. And one of my pet situations, you're inconsistent in the capital D of the city. Some places you have a capital, other places you don't. But I leave that to you whether you want to fix that up.
Yeah.
Now, next question. Who monitors the collateral that you get from securities lending?
Well, so we actually have, we have 2 custodial banks because of what I mentioned, the variable and the pension fund. So the pension fund, and if David could speak, and, that would fall under Controllers Association with State Street. On the variable funds, teachers has an association with JP Morgan Chase.
No, but that's the collateral holder. Who watches the fact that you have enough collateral on a steady basis when the market moves?
I mean, I believe that's the custodian, in terms of their program, security lending program has guidelines and mechanisms, I believe. David, could you add anything, or is that?
So Mark, the pension fund lending program is administered at Citibank, and Citibank is given guidelines that they have to stay within to monitor the collateral. They report that to our office, and we have a group that oversees the lending program to ensure that it's in compliance with those guidelines.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Just kind of a broad performance question. Actually, this is the most clean statement I've seen in a very, very long time. And it's where the funding ratio is substantially better because of the great performance we had this year. But there's one other area that I was wondering if that possibly had an impact on that. and that is, I believe usually the TDA tends to have a negative drain on the asset because people are smart enough in bad markets to use the TDA. Since the market was so good this year, then I'm also assuming that the negative financial impact of the TDA availability was also not in place this year. Because why would I be moving money into my TDA, which is a fixed return, if the market's performance is so good? Am I kind of interpreting that correct?
I hear what you're saying in terms of like people moving money into fixed when the market's going down, and obviously timing is everything. But yeah, people do that. In terms of the impact on the TDA, and at the end of the day, the biggest one impact I mentioned was that we didn't have an RMD payment, so the benefit payments actually went down last year. So there's more money in the fund. In terms of the TDA it grew less substantially because, let's say, 50% or more have money in this fixed return, and that only grew at 7%. So regardless, obviously more people started moving their money into the variables. Did they move it fast enough? That's everyone's different. But in terms of the impact of the TDA, so the biggest impact was that lack of the RMD. Otherwise, it's ultimately the TDA fix is growing, and the way I see it actually is that the TDA grew. So the potential for the TDA fix to grow also is growing. So it's already, interest, is a high amount.
Because I believe that the teachers is the only pension fund that has a significant TDA mixed into their asset mix. So it's kind of a special case as to how it financially impacts the overall pension fund, unlike any other of the pension systems in the city.
Right. Yeah. It's also, again, with the cash flow, even if, when the TDA goes up, even if everyone moves their money into fixed, it will show up as an expense, but they're not taking the money out until getting the RMD. So if you suspend the RMD, there's no money coming out in the year. So there's a few things going on there and up.
Okay, thank you.
If I ask this very as often as I can. Two separate questions. One, it would be very helpful when you read this thing as I do year on year to see if basically the description of what you're doing is the same year on year, and if there was a marked copy would show any of the changes in the nature of the words rather than just the numbers, because that would mean it would say things. Secondly, have you looked at your costs of managing the money as a percentage of the money compared to the other funds? Has anybody, I know I ask this all the time, why don't we have one fund where you buy the services from the supplier based on pricing that has to do with more assets under management?
I think we do that. I think we leverage our assets under management. I believe. I don't know, David, if you had anything more in terms of how each system is reviewed.
So Mark, as far as investments we do leverage we do combine the assets of the fund to make sure that we get the lowest possible fee where possible, or the best possible fee. So we do take advantage of the size of the fund when we're opening up investment accounts and creating investment platforms. I don't know if that addresses your question.
No, I think Mark's question really gets to the issue. You have 5 systems with 5 different administrations, and why can't they all be combined under one? That is the real question. Mark, is that what you're asking?
I always do.
I mean, I think we do a combination of both. I mean, we have some meetings. I mean, the Bureau, David and his team is leveraging and keeping an eye on everything.
Let me say this. I was in the business once, and I know that if you come to somebody with a pile of so many $1 billion that get aggregated, you can negotiate a better deal than if you come with 5 different things to be aggregated. And since the city underwrites all this, I don't know why the city doesn't take steps to reduce its costs.
That's a position I've held for a very long time, but I think we're asking the wrong people.
Asking the wrong people, yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, no, there are others, like one system selling and another one buying from all different people. And, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to thank you, Mitchell, for this morning's presentation, and good. Have a good year.
Yeah.
Mike,
Same. Hopefully see you.
before we leave, I just want to stress my view, and this is my view as a professional who advises people about what disclosures you make involving COVID. This is the thinnest disclosure I have ever seen in any of the enterprises that I look at. I hope you have talked to some of the lawyers whose responsibility this is to review the disclosure.
Yeah. I guess we'll take that back. I mean, we are just a fiduciary fund, part of the city annual report, but we'll take that back.
Yeah, I mean, following up on Mark, look at the city's disclosures at a minimum.
I can tell you, I'm the company, but one of the very large company that my wife was the director of, so I see some of the stuff, had a full page of COVID's impact on its enterprise. And it was basically in the money management business.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the New York City Board of Education Retirement System.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chitra Subramaniam. Good morning. I'm the Director of Fiscal Operations at BERS. I'm accompanied by our Executive Director, Mr. Rich, Internal Auditor, Ms. Ezefili, IT Director, Mr. Sebeli, Deputy Director of Fiscal Operations, Mr. Ahmed, and Ms. Key, a Senior Accountant. Our auditors are Grant Thornton, represented by Ms. Campbell, and Mr. Richardson. Today, I would like to briefly touch upon our key financial numbers for fiscal year 2021. BERS combined net position for fiscal year 2021 stood at 9.5 billion, an increase of 27% from fiscal year 2020. QPP's net position was at 7 billion, and TT's net position stood at 2.5 billion for fiscal year 2021. The increase in net position was mainly due to an increase in total investments, which increased by 33%, from 7.9 billion in fiscal year 2020 to 10.5 billion in fiscal year 2021. Return on fixed investment portfolio was at 27.97%. Our fixed asset mix comprises of 47% in equity, 27% in fixed income, 14% in alternative private investments, and 12% in real assets. QPP's net pension as a percentage of total pension liability moved to 121.96% in fiscal year 2021, compared to 94.92% in fiscal year 2020. The ratio of actual value of assets to the entry age actual accrued liability stood at 94.10% based on the most recent actual valuation. These are some of our key financial numbers for fiscal year 2021. Thank you.
Once again, did you get the certificate for 2020?
Yes, we received the certificate.
And have you applied for the certificate for the 2021 annual report?
Yes, we applied.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions from any of the members?
If I can, Mike, on
Sure.
page 10, there's a reference to refund payments. I'm not familiar. What? It's the next to last paragraph.
Page 10, you said?
Yes, sir. To death benefits and refund payments.
This is regarding the TDA refund payments that we made. We did not have RMD payments, much of RMD payments. Our refund payments went down. So I believe the reference is relating to our refund TDA.
What makes a payment a refund payment? I just didn't understand it. That's all.
Our RMDs, members who applied for a refund, the retirees, if they have applied for refund or the required minimum distributions, that would come with the refunds as well.
Were these payments that you made, and then within the short period of time, the members said, like, we don't want an RMD for 20?
No, the CARES Act increased the minimum RMD requirement age. So it moved to 72 years from 70.5 years. So that kind of dropped the RMD payments.
All right. I hope I understand that. Then on note 1, your first paragraph says that each of these is a separate retirement system, a separate oversight body, and financially independent of the other. You left out the fact that it's all ultimately dependent on the city. So this doesn't cover the whole part of their interactions. Everybody knows that, but it seems to me it was an omission. And then you got mixing up the capital D's. I'll leave you alone about that. But then on page 24, when you refer to concentrations, you say for those with the faith of the United States, usually it's the words language, full faith and credit. I don't think the religious faith of the United States is an issue. So that you're missing a couple of words there. And then when I turn to what you have money in, apart from the fact you have minuscule amounts in some of these currencies that can't be worth the bookkeeping. I mean, have what is it, $1,000 in Pakistani rupee? But the more significant ones is a piece of the Turkish lira and the Hungarian forint, which currencies are pretty well collapsing. Is it because they're so small or what?
I would refer the question to David.
So Mark, a lot of the pension fund investments are in index funds. So what you're really seeing is the representation of that currency in the index, which is why it's so small. It's not a specific investment decision that caused, a $1,000 investment in Pakistan. It's because we invest across the whole index. So we're just getting the exposure of the index there.
If in fact this is a function of that, it seems to me that it might be well to say a system is investment foreign stocks, then you don't say you have a fund that picks because of the exposure you have, you just mentioned. So that disclosure may.
Okay, we can work on getting that clearer.
I think it's just something to think about.
Okay.
And then I'll be with you in a minute. I have the same comment about this one about the COVID disclosure. Yeah. Okay, Mike, I have nothing else. All I would urge everybody to take a look at that COVID. The more I think about it,
Okay, Bud, Larry, and you have any comments, questions?
I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you very much and have a good year. Next up on the agenda is the New York City Employees Retirement System. Could you please identify who is here as with you? Katrina?
We have Mario. Mario's on mute.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mario DeSanto. And Chun Gong should be on as well. And Herman Burnell. Tom, I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my computer, and I won't be, Tom Stamboris. Hopefully I pronounced his last name correctly. And Daniel Nunez. And Chun Gong will be presenting.
And Mario, what is your position at NICES?
Oh, currently acting director of finance.
Thank you.
And I'm having issues. Bear with me.
Mario Herman is joining now.
Okay. Is Chung Gong on the call? Can anyone tell? Because she's going to be presenting.
Yes.
I have.
Chun is on.
Okay. Chun. I'm sorry, everyone.
I think Chun is muted. Chun.
I'm having issues with my computer. I'd read the presentation. Let me see here.
Katrina, she's on. She's not muted, but we can't hear her.
Okay. Hi, Chun. We see you. We're not able to hear you though.
Okay, bear with me.
Katrina, Chun is trying to log back in.
Okay, would you like us to skip NICES and move on to the next one, and then we could come back to NICES?
I'm letting her in a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, excellent. I've been screaming for a while now, so I'm glad that it got fixed. So, so this is Chun from NICERS, and I'm here to present NICERS financials as of June 30, 2021. Other representative attending today are Mario, he already spoke, the acting director of finance, and we also have Tom Camboris, the chief information officer, Dan Unitz, the chief information security officer, and Herman Burnell, the director of internal audit. Grant Thorntons are NICERS independent auditors, and I'm happy to report that NICERS did not receive any audit findings. So now I'm going to go start presenting the financials, and I'm going to refer the page numbers on the ACFR. So in terms of assets, QPP net position as of June 30, 2021 reached 85.9 billion, up from 69.9 billion at June 30, 2020. And that's on page 84 and 85 of the ACFR. Also, you can see on the same page, it shows that BSF net position as of June 30, 21 at 1.2 billion, up from 353 million at June 30, 2020. On page 77, you can see the QPP and VSF combined is 87.1 billion, an increase of about 17 billion from 2020. In terms of market return, on page 81 of ACFR, the total fund returned 26.63% for fiscal year 2021, and that's higher than NYSER's policy benchmark of 26.34%. Domestic equities, which account for more than a quarter of the total portfolio, returned 45.14%, higher than the Russell 3000 benchmark of 44.16%. And on page 147, you can see the total world, excluding USA, makes about 13% of the total portfolio, returned 39.97%.
Excuse
Emerging markets.
Yeah, I don't have any.
I believe, Sean, you're referring to the annual, the annual comprehensive report. We only have your standalone.
I see. The pages that I have, I'm referring to the annual report, correct?
Mark, that's the question I asked about the GFOA. What we have is commonly referred to as the standalone from each of the pension systems.
Okay. So for next time, I'm going to refer to the financial statement pages. I apologize.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue. The emerging markets, constituting about 6% of the total portfolio, returned 51.24%. The total fixed income segment, which takes up more than a third of the portfolio, returned 5.26%. And then in terms of funded ratios, funded status, based on the entry age normal cost method, funded ratio is at 76.8% as of June 30, 2019. And that's the date of the most recent actuarial evaluation. The funded ratio went up from 74.1% as of June 30, 2018. Additionally, as of June 30, 21, the planned fiduciary net position represents 93.1% of total pension liability for NYSERS and 5 ESFs. In terms of the variable supplements funds, in December 2020, the QPP transferred to 4 of the 5 ESFs approximately 9.8 million in benefit payments. And just to refresh your memory, these are the smaller VSFs, including the housing police superior officers, transit police, and transit police superior officers. And they are funded on a pay-as-you-go basis. According to the New York State law, NYSERS transfers in December of each year from the contingent reserve fund to those VSFs in order to cover the benefit payments. And these funds are close to new entrants, so the benefit payments are expected to go down each year. Based on the actuary's estimate as of June 30, 2021, a scheme is payable to the corrections officers VSF in the amount of 925 million. In December, NYSERS transferred 90% of the estimate, which is 832 million, from QPP to COVSF. So that concludes my presentation today. Thank you.
Quick question. Was there a management letter prepared for NYSERS?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Was there, did NYSERS receive a management letter from the auditors?
No, we did not receive any audit findings this year.
Okay. And the question that I asked before, did NICES receive the GFOA award for 2020?
Yes,
And has the annual report for 2021 been submitted to the GFOA for the award?
yes, it was submitted on time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions that any of the members have?
Not a question, but in the past, I'm probably the only one who's asked for the full financials, but it's an administrative thing. If in the future, when we do the pension systems, if it could be arranged that I could get the full financial statement, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment. I know Bud has asked for it, and I think the complete might answer some of Mark's questions as well. So from this point going forward, could we receive for the annual meeting with the pension plans the full annual comprehensive financial report from each of the systems instead of the standalones?
Yes, a hard copy. A hard copy, not, I mean, because you could access it on.
No, a hard copy. Yeah. A hard copy.
So,
Nice.
yeah, so
Go ahead, Sean.
we, NICERS, we no longer print hard copies, but, we can share the link to the annual comprehensive report with all of you in December.
Okay. Thank you very much, but we'd like a hard copy.
And I'll coordinate.
Okay.
All right. I have a question. If you turn to page 17 of what I'm looking at, there's a reference to one of the things is, and the state. What does the state have to do with this plan? My reference is on page 17 of what I'm looking at. In the third full paragraph, it says CUNY and the state. What does the state have to do with something like this?
Mark, what page? I'm sorry.
17, Mike. Third paragraph, fourth line. It lists a bunch of things, City University and the state. I hope we're not doing anything for the state.
Okay, yes, I can answer your question because state the state court is part of NICER's participating employers, and they contribute to NICER's the annual pension employer contributions.
Well, then my suggestion was anybody else reads this won't understand that. You might make that clear that we're not doing this for the whole state.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment.
I want to point out a little wording on page 18, the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees and VSF each have one vote. That doesn't mean it's each of the members of the board. The board doesn't have one vote. That's the English language there. And then there's for the two members of the association, and I don't know who those are. You're missing something there. Take a look at that. Drafting is this stuff.
Mark, you changed your camera view. We see the whole picture.
Then one other thing, on the same page, 18, while a portion of these payments are guaranteed by the city, the legislature reserved to itself and the state. Is this when I thought it was the state could do that, but what the legislature, but what's the concept of and the state, reserved to itself and the state? If it's not the legislature, who is it and what does it mean? I suspect that the governor doesn't have the right to do it.
Can you tell me which paragraph it is?
It's not paragraph on page 18. The second sentence is, while a portion of these payments are guaranteed by the city, the legislature has reserved to itself and the state. I don't understand and the state.
Okay, we will look into that.
Okay.
Yes, we'll look into that.
One of the advantages of having it on paper is you can mark it up better. Oh, the OT still hangs around. I haven't anything else, Mike.
Fine, Larian, you have any?
I'm okay.
Good. Thank you very much and have a good year.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the New York City Police Pension Fund.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm going to jump right into it if that's okay.
Sure. If there's anybody here, especially for the minutes, identify any of your colleagues.
Yep. I'll do that in my opening paragraph. It's a pleasure for me to present in front of the New York City Audit Committee again. My name is Stanley Thomas. I'm the Chief Fiscal Officer at the Police Pension Fund. I'm accompanied by our Chief Information Officer, John Flynn, and our Director of Accounting, Bob Bakuti-Suddy, as well as other team members of my units. The fund's net position, restricted for benefits, increased by $10.8 billion, or 23.3%, to $57.1 billion in fiscal year 2021, compared to fiscal year 2020, where it increased by $1.3 billion, or 2.8%, to $46.3 billion in fiscal year 2020 compared to fiscal year 2029. The fund's net position restricted for benefits increased in fiscal years 2021 and 2020 due to contributions and investment income exceeding benefit payments and withdrawals. During fiscal year 2021, member contributions decreased 8.7 to 255.8 million as compared to fiscal year 2020 contribution of 280.1 million. Increases and decreases in member contributions are primarily due to the fluctuations of active members and their voluntary and required contributions. Benefit payments and withdrawals were 3.84 billion due to an increase of the number of retirees that were eligible for these benefits. In fiscal 2021, the administrative expenses were $24.9 million. In fiscal 2020, the first rollout, as we have discussed in previous years, I'd like to just give the audit committee an update about a significant project that we're that's ongoing right now. So in fiscal 2020, the first rollout of our multi-year project to upgrade our operational software system, what we call COPS 2.0, went live. The new software is helping us provide better customer service to our members, and is giving our members the ability to access and manage different aspects of their pension via their own internet portal. This software has been an extremely valuable resource to the fund, especially during the pandemic time. In fiscal 2021, we continue work towards rollout 2 milestones that were planned to go live in mid-fiscal year 2023. In addition, we also began to work on rollout 3 milestones that were planned to go live in later years. Another significant update that I would like to let the committee know as well is we are in the process of creating our internal audit unit. I thought it would be something that the audit committee would want to know about. We hired our director of our internal audit. We have hired he would be building out that unit. So the goal is to get that unit up and running and perform the critical aspects of internal audit that our fund wants. Overall, fiscal year 2021 was an important year for our pension fund. Our total net position increased we reach milestones for rollout 2 for the COPS 2.0 project and continue to build our great working relationships with the Comptroller's Office, the Actuary's Office, and the audit team from Grant Audit. A special thanks to all 3 of them for making the audit process seamless. We really appreciate it. Last but not least, I would like to thank the City Audit Committee for giving me the opportunity to present to you all today. And at this time, that concludes my presentation for today.
Thank you very much. You've heard my questions asked of your colleagues and other systems. Did you receive the GFOA award for 2020?
Yes, Michael. So we received it, and we also submitted we also submitted on December 22nd the following year documentations as well.
Okay, thanks. And you heard the previous comment about in the future, if we could get the complete annual and coordinate that with Katrina Stauffer, who's the secretary of the audit committee.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry.
No.
It's those telemarketers.
My call warranty is now like out of the date.
All right. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to work with Katrina and Jacqueline and their team and to make sure that our entire offer is submitted to you guys, the hard copy, so that you guys could have that when you guys review our financials.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the audit committee?
I have one, Mike.
Mark?
Did you notice any change in the way in which people who were involved with you, who were pensioners or otherwise, or about to become, as a result of the virus?
Are you talking specifically about our members?
Some increased retirements as a result of the virus, or one I know of had a series of deaths it was beyond its expectation. It's nothing to do with the city. Did you have any of that?
There was an increase in retirements. So that there could be multiple factors related to that. It could be to the pandemic. It could also be to other environments that the city was going during that fiscal year. But there was an increase to members submitting their retirement paperwork.
Now, I don't want to play gotcha, but I point out that your discussion of the virus impact in the footnote doesn't refer to anything at all having to do with what you just said.
Okay.
It's true of every other system that we reviewed, and the answer is probably the same there. And I tell you, as somebody who reviews these things for public companies, the liability impact, I think you should address that with whoever you're talking to as your lawyer sooner rather than later.
Sure. Thank you. That's a great point. Our paragraph about the pandemic, I guess, mostly focused on our administrative impact, but you make a valid point. We'll also mention the impact that it has on our members.
Okay. I don't have
any questions from any of the members of the audit committee? Okay, hearing none. Yeah. Once again, did you have any management letter comments from the auditors?
Sharon, you're more than welcome to speak on it, but the letter that we did receive, there were no material findings from Grant Audit.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question, Mike. Forgive me.
Sure. Okay, Mark.
Put the internal audit function in. Are you going to give that internal audit any role in watching cybersecurity, or where else is that in your structure?
So there will be, they would have components of doing internal audit functions for our IT infrastructure. We also have hired a virtual CISO to oversee, and we already started that process. They're going to start doing their interviews as well. So to reassure or to do extra evaluations on our infrastructure and to see if there's any security concerns that we need to address. So we did hire someone. If you would like to have more details, we do have our CIO on the meeting, so he'll be more than happy to go to details if you need that.
All I was asking is that I forgot to ask everybody else. In today's world, everybody is very interested in cybersecurity, and any organization of your size probably has somebody around who worries about it. I assume the others do as well.
Yeah. So, which is why it's a great point, and you're 100% right, just especially with everything going on. Which is why we hired the consultant CISO, and also we some of the functions for internal audit would be looking into those kind of workflows.
My fellow members will excuse me because I should have asked this of every member, everybody who's reporting today, because there's obviously some benefit from each of the organizations talking to each other about what it's doing for cybersecurity. And I forgot to ask that question. Is there anybody who think about how to address that?
We could basically pose it as a question to all the systems. I mean, there's one more system coming up. I can't see if all the other systems have left.
We still have representatives.
It's still on.
Mm-hmm.
So we could ask them just to report back to the secretary. We don't want details, but we just want to make sure that they're looking into and addressing possible cybersecurity issues. We don't want to know if you hired any firm or the firm's names. We don't even want to know the software that you use. We just want an assurance that it's being looked upon.
Mike, if I could add, I'm sorry, it's just,
okay.
It is part, we do have a big IT audit as part of the financial audit. And, all this is looked upon by Grant Thornton as well. I mean, teachers does have dedicated, professionals in charge of this.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions of police? Okay, if there are none, thank you very much, Stanley, for your presentation. And next up on the agenda is the New York City fire pension funds.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Hello? Can everyone hear?
Yes.
We can hear.
Okay, that's good. Let me see, I'm put here. This is Winnie Lin from, I'm a deputy chief accountant from Fire Pension Fund. We have our finance budget director, Simon Sewak, and then chief of staff, Michael Song, and Andrew Lai, our internal auditor. Okay, so I will be presenting the combined financial result for Fire QPP, Firefighter Variable Funds, and Fire Officer Variable Fund for fiscal year 2021. Fiscal year 2021 was a year of excellent growth and improvement for Fire. Our COPAS increased by 24.9% over the prior year, fiscal 2020. At beginning of fiscal 21, combined net position restrict for the benefit was approximately 15.9 billion. We closed the year at approximately 19.9 billion. The combined net position restricted for the benefit increased by approximately 4 billion over the fiscal year 2020. This was due in large part to the significant overall net appreciations in fair value of the invested assets. Our GASB 67/68 report by Office of Actuary for the fiscal year 2021 disclosed an improvement in Fire combined fiduciary net position as a percentage of total pension liability, formerly funded asset status. This ratio was 79.9% in fiscal year 21, a significant increase from the 66.1% reporting in fiscal year 2020. So the combined statement of changes in net position, we reported additional approximately 5.5 billion. The employer contribution at the 1.4 billion was up 1.2% over the fiscal year 2020. Member contribution at 110.6 billion was up 5.4% over the fiscal year 2020. The net investment gains at approximately 4 billion was significant. The AMT reported was 451.4% greater than prior fiscal year 2020. The combined benefit payments, withdrawals, and the administrative expense reporting was approximately 1.6 billion. It is an increase of 1.6% over the fiscal year 2020. Payment includes VSF disbursement of 43.6 billion for the firefighter variable fund and 20.6 million for the fire officer variable fund. Administrative expenses at 10.3 million was slightly higher than the fiscal year 2020. Fiscal year 2020 was reporting 9.1 billion. So from our operation side, there was also a good year. The fire processed over 530 retirement applications. The retirees now are on payroll receiving 90% of their benefits. We also processed 116 new member applications for probationary firefighters. The POBIs were now contributing members of the fund under Tier 3 enhancement legislation. We closed the year approximately 17,300 in retirees and beneficiaries, and approximately 10,800 in active firefighters and fire officers. So that concludes the presentation.
Thank you.
Can we just acknowledge that Albert Connolly, Director of Pension Administration, has joined us?
Okay, thank you. Did you receive any management letter comments?
No. Oh, no.
Okay, thanks. And once again, was your annual report for 2020 submitted to the GFOA and received the certificate?
Yes.
And was your 2021 annual report submitted to the GFOA for consideration of the certificate?
Yes, we did.
Okay, thanks. Are there any comments or questions from any members of the audit committee? Oh, and by the way, did you hear the other comment that going forward, we would like to get the complete annual financial report and coordinate that with the controller's office to be sent to the audit committee?
Yes, we did. We will forward to you for the audit committee to review.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions or comments from any member of the audit committee?
I'd like to make the same comment I made in the police here, and that is, did the organization have an increase of retirements or something beyond what you expected as a result of COVID?
We had a few, our deaths were a few more deaths like happened, in that 1 or 2 months. And actually this past month, so far this month, there was a few more deaths that we had. But we didn't really have, we only had one COVID death, and that just happened on Friday of an active member. But we didn't, the overtime, so the overtime in the field is higher right now. That's one of the things that could possibly make, some of the people might retire due to the additional overtime. But again, we don't know that effect yet.
My suggestion is that you look at the disclosure of the impact of COVID that's in yours. I have raised this with each of the other institutions because in the public sector, the public company sector, the kind of disclosure you had would not be acceptable. Just it's too little to say about an event that has the kind of disruptive effect that COVID has had. I don't know whether it hits you more or less than other pieces, but it's hard to believe that one or two paragraphs you have isn't adequate disclosure. I think that's something to think about. The other thing I want to raise is that last year was a wonderful year in the markets. And it's rare in my life that I've seen something quite so nice. When you look at your rates of return and target asset allocations, have you looked at the impact of one outlying year like last year on these expectations?
If I will look into it.
Yes, we will look into that.
Okay. And the last question, which I've been asking, and maybe you heard it, and that is there somebody in your organization who's responsible for cybersecurity?
So we currently don't have a specific person identified that's solely responsible for cybersecurity. We work with our managed service provider vendor along with New York City Cyber Command and our IT staff internally.
Yeah. Thank you.
So if I heard you correctly, you work with the New York City Cyber Command?
Yes, as other city agencies do, as the other funds do, we work in cooperation with New York City Cyber Command. They provide us with resources to help us monitor our environment.
Yeah, they're a very impressive group.
Yeah, in fact, that was one of the suggestions I was going to ask, is maybe we should reach out to the New York City Cyber Command and ask them to comment on the pension systems, IT systems, if there's anything we should in fact be aware of.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I also have kind of a macro financial question comment, which probably the pension board can't answer, maybe the actuary or somebody else. But as we've mentioned, there has been a substantial year in the market. We've done exceedingly well. And if I look at the funding ratios of the other pension systems, they've risen to a rate where one could say that you're reasonably comfortable. They're pretty close to the 100% mark or above it. Even after this great year in the market, the funding ratio for fire is still significantly below that kind of level. Therefore, I guess I throw out the question, and I don't know if it goes to the actuary or to the controller or O&B, is there some actions or something that we should be doing relative to the fire pension fund because of that much substantially lower funding ratio than we see in the other four pension systems? And I don't really think this is a question per se for the representatives from the fire pensions fund per se here, but I don't know if there's somebody from the actuary's office that's on, or anyone else might have comment on that. And if not, it may be an issue that the audit committee wants to raise to the New York City governance.
This is Craig Chu, Deputy Chief Actuary at the Office of the Actuary. I can chime in a little bit and mention, Bud, that it is certainly on the radar that the funded status for the fire pension fund is a little different from the other systems. And it's an ongoing point of analysis as to sort of what the causes of that have been, with a lot of information pointing towards the ongoing World Trade Center reclassifications and the hits that the funded status has been taking in that regard. It sounds like your question is a little bit more about whether it's on the radar for future actions that should be taken in light of the differences there. And I will say it is on the radar, and the single best thing that the city can do as a whole is to maintain, a strong funding and contribution policy and a lot of contribution discipline. And that is something that we're going to be monitoring going forward.
Okay, and it's just something I think that really needs attention, and I think you probably know better than anybody else. There's always been some questions too about, particularly in the fire pension system, the high percentage of disability retirements and how that's impacted the funding of the system. But it would just be worthwhile if this would be something that would be on the forefront.
Okay, noted. Thanks.
My guess is that the virus has exacerbated whatever issues we have.
Are there any other questions or comments of the fire pension at this juncture?
Mike, I just have one question. There's two people who are on the phone. They have a 9691 number and a 5556. Can you identify who you are?
This is primarily for the minutes of who's attending this meeting. That's why Camille's asking that question. And it's not so much for the fire people, it's for the people that have called into this meeting.
I don't know who.
Okay. If there are no other questions or comments for fire, I'd like to thank you for attending this morning and have a good year. The next item on the agenda is the New York City Other Post-Employment Benefits Plan.
Thank you, Mike. I'll take it from here. My name is Raymond Lee. I'm the Assistant Director for Accounting Services at OMB, and my team is responsible for putting together the financial statements for the OPEB plan. With me today is Chris Santangelo. He is the Assistant Director for Miscellaneous Budget, and he took over for Andrew Dowling, who had recently retired for the second time.
When is he coming back for the third?
He's actually here once a week.
I don't think Andy's never leaving.
Yeah, Andy doesn't seem to be able to leave.
Please send him my regards.
Sure thing.
You're basically saying, Raymond, that he never left, just to be clear.
He is officially retired.
He doesn't have vacation time, so he retires and then comes back.
He's officially retired, technically speaking, but he's here once a week to help with the transition and to lend his expertise on the subject matters. All right, so the OPEB plan in fiscal 21, if we turn to page 6, here we have the additions and deductions of the plan. The biggest difference between fiscal 20 and fiscal 2021 is the lack of a drawdown this year. In fiscal 20, to help plug the budget, essentially, the city did not contribute the full pay-go to the plan. Instead, it contributed $1 billion less than the actual pay-go. This year, the city was able to pay the entire pay-go as well as prepay $425 million for the fiscal 22 pay-go. The second biggest difference between fiscal 20 and fiscal 2021 is the difference in investment income. The investment income this year, as you can see, between 2020 and 2021 was much less. In 2020, it was 76 million. This year, it was 3.6 million net investment income. Turning to page 9, we have the net OPEB liability, which increased from 109 billion to 117 billion. That difference was primarily from a drop in the discount rate used to calculate the liability, which went from about 2.7 to 2.1%. And anytime the discount rate drops, it causes an increase in the total liability. The last major event of fiscal 21 was the announcement of the Medicare Advantage plan, switch from senior care to Medicare Advantage. That, of course, has run into difficulties from a legal perspective that I talk about a bit in the subsequent events disclosures on page 23. That disclosure was written as of October 28th, 2021, so missing a few updates since then. The Aetna and the United Healthcare lawsuits were essentially dismissed. The procurement of what we call the alliance, which is a joint contract between Emblem and Anthem. The judge has said that procurement can stand. So the suits by the other insurance companies that claimed that the procurement was faulty was dismissed. The other lawsuit is still ongoing. The lawsuit from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. They sued the city to stop them from implementing the new Medicare Advantage plan. As of now, the plan is set to be implemented starting April 1st, 2022. And the city is still working towards that date. I know that the committee had questions about the Medicare Advantage plan, which Chris and I will address during the executive session. With that, I will open the floor to any questions.
Thank you, Raymond. Are there any questions from any of the members of the audit committee regarding the OPEB plan?
Well, I raised the same thing again. This is the skinniest of the words about the, and I think it's totally inadequate.
So, Mark, I think we have to think about OPEB plan and what the function of the OPEB plan is and what it consists of. It ultimately is primarily the trust. So the entity that manages the investments. Beyond that, administratively, the COVID impact was basically none. The plan itself does not really have employees. It's really just the employees of the city, and then U.S. Bank that manages the trust. From a liability perspective, we did discuss with the actuary on what kind of impact COVID would have on the liability, but in talking with the actuary's office, and Tom, you can jump in any point here, it's still very uncertain as to what kind of impact it has. We also discussed the auditors and what would be the appropriate disclosures, and in consultation with them, we determined that there really wasn't much we could say.
Well, do you have any doubt that there will be some impact?
I guess when you say impact, like what type of impact is that exactly?
Given the fact that this whole thing is done with smoke and mirrors, and there's the liability goes up, is it possible that the virus would have caused an ultimate increase in the OPEB costs?
So this is Tom from the actuary's office. I can jump in a little here. I guess the two ways that COVID would most likely impact the OPEB is either like population, so decrease in the number of people covered, or else in the claim costs. So that gets reflected in the premiums. So we haven't seen any significant impact there in the 2021 valuation. We really won't know until we start the 2022 valuation sometime in late spring. So around that time, we should have a better, sense of what, if any, impact COVID had when we get the new census data and when we get the updated premium information. But barring that, it's really too difficult to guess or predict exactly what the impact is going to be.
I will pose the question again. Do you have any doubt that there will be some impact?
It's too hard to say. I don't know. I mean, we just don't know.
Okay, I quit.
Are there any other comments or questions from any of the other audit committee members? Hearing none. Thanks, Raymond, for the presentation this morning. At this juncture, I'd like to have a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Kat, it's now on your shoulders.
Recording stop.